Welcome back to the High School Dish. I know I said I was gonna start doing my podcast episodes like way more often. That just did not happen because life happens.
Oopsies.
Isn't that a really great quote?
Yeah.
It's just like life happens.
Life has a way.
Life just happens.
Yeah, it does.
So basically we have a recurring guest, Miss Kallie Green over here.
Hi.
And so Kallie is a very special person. She's a very special person.
Mm-hmm.
And she has a lot of things.
Issues.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, I'll say it myself. I have a lot of issues.
And like mental issues. And as I've said previously in my anxiety podcast episode, mental health is very prevalent in our age, and it is very important to talk about. And a lot of people, like, I feel like old people, they're always like, oh, these people are coming with these things and stuff like that and whatever. Like, no, people are just like talking about it more, and they're just, you know, reaching out more, which is important.
Mm-hmm.
So you get that corrected, or like you get intervention for it. So Kallie is one of those people who has many different special little things going on in her special little brain.
Yeah.
So basically what we're just going to be talking about is
me.
Kallie, which she loves.
You can get a little glimpse into my brain,
her
which
little
is a pretty
noggin.
interesting one. Pretty interesting one.
You've even said it yourself that if you wanted to look at anybody's brain, you would like to look at your own.
Yeah, it would be my own, and then I have a list of a few other people's who I would love to look at. But yeah, my brain is pretty special. It's pretty interesting. I don't even know where to begin on how special my brain is.
Just like begin from like when were you first diagnosed with something?
When I was 6, I was first diagnosed with insomnia. And I remember I went to my first therapist when I was 6 years old. Started young. And that was a very special therapist. I remember I went, and the memories I was 6, obviously, so I don't like have a lot of memories of this therapist. But I remember, I could say her name, but I'm not going to. She had me draw out my sleep paralysis demon, because 6 was the first time I had sleep paralysis. She had me draw out my demon, and she had me name it.
Oh.
And she was like, you should name your demon something that you find funny and something that like is like not scary, right? I don't know why, but I named her Shelly.
Oh, that's a very nice name.
Shelly is my sleep paralysis demon, always has been. I joke around with my friends sometimes. I'm like, Shelly's back. She's in the flesh. Shelly's alive.
Oh, love that.
But yeah, I love Shell. She's my girl. Sleep paralysis is not fun, but whatever. Hi, Suki. But yeah, 6 was when I was diagnosed with insomnia. Not been able to sleep since. But yeah, I mean, that was like the first real thing that I was diagnosed with.
Yeah. Like, does like insomnia like come up with like the mental issues, like, or is just like insomnia is just like a separate thing of its own?
No, it definitely comes up because a lot of things affect the way you sleep. Like, I could do a whole thing on like sleep because
a whole spiel.
I don't sleep ever, and I have so many sleeping issues.
Yeah,
besides insomnia.
You just like text Kallie at like 4 a.m. and she's up.
Yeah, it's like a little fun thing that I do. And I've just had so many sleeping issues, especially like ones that have appeared in the past like 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
That, you know, just suck. Like they're just awful. But insomnia is definitely gets affected by other things. So it's like the more you're anxious, the less you're gonna like. That's just like a normal correlation. And then you add like having insomnia on top of it, where you already don't sleep, and it's just like a recipe for like you're not gonna sleep. Yeah, but I was diagnosed when I was 6 with insomnia, and then it just went downhill from there. Worse and worse,
spiraling down.
And I feel like so I was like diagnosed with major depressive disorder.
Yeah.
When I was 13. 13? 13. I want to say 13.
Okay.
Because it was pandemic.
Mm.
But a lot of people, I feel like, mistake the pandemic for, I don't know, just a hot take I have.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people mistake the pandemic for giving them mental issues. I don't think that's true.
I don't think it gave. I think it brought it out. Like,
yeah.
I think it, because for me, definitely, like, looking back at it, I definitely had anxiety, like, throughout my entire life.
Yeah.
I think it just amplified during the pandemic, because I remember that after the pandemic, I could not leave my house, and I had such bad social anxiety. I think that it really, like, came out after the pandemic, because I was, like, afraid of everything, and I couldn't understand why I was afraid of everything. And then things just, like, started to amplify more, and I also think it's because, like, my brain started maturing more, I guess.
Yeah.
And so obviously, like, things start to develop more, and so I just, like, think that the pandemic really just showed, just basically presented, like, symptoms, and presented, like, your actual, like, mental disorder, whichever, like, people had, just more than, like, you know, if it was just, like, daily life instead of just pandemic.
Because the pandemic, for me, if I'm being honest, I loved. Like, I obviously didn't love the part where people were dying, and it was, like, a real sickness, and it was, like, a real thing. But I remember I was having so many issues in school before the pandemic started. Like, I would go home almost every day. I was never in school. That's when, like, all of those issues started. I would get so anxious in classes. I would have panic attacks, anxiety attacks, all of the above. And so I remember when the pandemic started and it was, like, 2 weeks off from school, I was so relieved. And I was like, oh my God, I don't have to go to school for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
2 weeks of excused absences. Like, everyone's absent. Like, it's not like just me, right? And then I remember the pandemic lasting, and it was like, it probably didn't help anything. It probably made everything in my head worse.
Yeah.
But it was so amazing.
Yeah, at the time.
Opinion.
Yeah, at the time, like, during it was, like, so great. Like, you stayed home. You didn't really have to see anybody. All you had to do was, like, call, whatever. But it's the transition getting out of the pandemic. That's the really thing that, like, hit everybody, I feel. Especially with people who have, like, anxiety and, like, all those type of things. Because, honestly, like, a lot of mental disorders tie back to anxiety, because it's just, like, a thing that's amplified when you have, like, mental disorders, I feel.
Oh, yeah. And, like, with the pandemic, I was just so excited that it was happening, and I was, like, so just relieved. And then, like, during the pandemic, people didn't, like, react the same way I did. And I was, like, confused, because I was like, oh my God, like, I'm so happy. Like, I don't want to be with people. This gives me an excuse to not be with people. Like, I already had those feelings. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I was already not in school. I was already so anxious. I was already depressed. Like, and then the pandemic just gave me a way to
avoid that.
Avoid it, but also, like, not feel, like, guilty.
Right.
Because it was, like, I had an excuse for for feeling the way I feel. Like, I had an excuse for, like,
skipping school and stuff like that.
And an excuse for not seeing people, and I didn't have to deal with my anxiety that I already had, or the depression that I already had. And so I feel like it was just so easy, and it really gave, like, an excuse rather than, like, that's why I say, like, I don't think the depression, not the depression, because we weren't around during the Great Depression. But the pandemic didn't give me anything.
Yeah.
It just let it manifest until, like, it couldn't anymore. And then that's bad. That was bad.
Yeah, I genuinely think that's also, like, what happened to me, because I remember, like, I thought that I just had these problems and stuff like that. Like, it just, like, came. I was like, wait, like, it's after the pandemic. The pandemic did this to me. But no, the pandemic didn't do it to me. It just amplified everything, so that way, like, I know that I have it now.
Yeah.
Like, before, like, now looking back at it and thinking of, like, memories before, like, I was actually diagnosed, I remember in 6th grade, like, remember there was, like, bomb threats and stuff like that at school? And so, like, I remember some people, they were talking about, oh, like, I'm staying home, I'm too scared. But that just gave them an excuse not to be there. But my mom made me go because she's like, those threats, they're not real. And also, there's literally going to be, like, police cars and everything like that. I remember sitting for, like, probably the first half of the school being, like, so anxious. Like, I needed to use the bathroom. Like, I had such bad stomach aches. I felt like I was gonna throw up. I was shaking the entire morning because I literally thought that there was gonna be a bomb that was gonna go off or something like that. Like, I got so scared, but, like, I feel like that's, like, a little bit more normal, but, like, the way that I was feeling, like, it just, like, did not feel normal.
Yeah. When I was in second grade, I remember, well, when we were in second grade, that was the time of the Sandy Hook shooting.
Was that second grade? No, that was not.
Yeah, it was. It was second grade.
I thought it was first.
Or it might have...
I think it was kindergarten. No,
it wasn't.
It was either kindergarten or first.
I think it was second grade, and the reason I'm saying that is because I remember in second grade, I was never in class. I was always with the school psychologist. And I didn't know why. Yeah. Like, I wasn't aware of why, but I remember, like, in second grade, this is like childhood trauma. Like, I remember I used to lock myself in my parents' bathroom because it was the only, like, real room in the house that, like, locked.
Yeah.
And used to just sit in there and, like, cry and beg and scream not to go to school. And obviously I would lose because I was in second grade and I had to go to school.
Yeah.
But, like, it wasn't only me. Like, it was my brother, too. Like, the two of us would, like, barricade ourselves in my parents' bathroom being like, we can't go to school. Like, we literally can't.
Yeah.
And then I would end up going to school, and I remember being in the car, and I would always look to the person who was driving me, whether it was my babysitter, my mom, my dad, someone, and I'd be like, did it look like I was crying? Like, make sure it doesn't look like I was crying.
Yeah.
Like, can you tell I was crying? And they would always say, no, you look fine. And obviously my eyes were puffy and red because I was just crying and screaming the entire morning. And then I would go to school, show up, be in class for 5 minutes, and then this psychologist would come get me. And I, like, didn't realize why she would always come get me. And I was, like, so confused. But like, that was definitely.
Yeah, I think I was not so aware of the Sandy Hook happening because also when Sandy Hook happened, all those kids who died, like, the majority of them were our age. They were our age.
That's why,
That's why it was, like, so scary. And it's, like, crazy to think that if that didn't happen, those kids who went to Sandy Hook, they would be graduating with us right now, which is, like, actually so insane. Yeah. But yeah, no, I think, like, that's when it first started, like, when I started getting scared of, like, school shootings and stuff like that. And it's crazy that I had to think about that, like,
that's
when I was 6.
Absolutely ridiculous.
And I remember, like, I would have dreams about, like, school shooting. And so I would come into first grade every single day, and I would mark the exits in which I would, like,
yes,
I would mark I still do that.
You just unlocked a memory that I had.
I still do that.
I used to sit in my teacher's class, and you know how, like, every classroom had, like, a phone?
Yeah.
I would make sure I sat there and, like, replayed, like, my parents' number and my grandma's number so that, like, if something happened, I could call them.
Yeah.
And I could, like, use the phone, and I could be like, Mom, like, I'm in school. Like, Grandma, I'm in school. PJ, I'm in school. Like, all these different things. And I would literally sit there being, like, wondering, like, just repeating the number in my head. And I was in, like, second grade. It was, like, remembering numbers because I didn't have a phone. Like, oh, that really unlocked a memory.
Yeah, no, I would literally, like...
God, every kid must fucking be so anxious.
I know. Like, I still do this, but when we were in elementary school and we heard about these shootings and stuff like that, like, I would, like, mark the exits to see where I would escape from. Like, how high could I jump without breaking a bone? And, like, seeing which direction would I go, like, to, like, evade, like, a shooter or something like that. Like, let's see, like, how fast can I, like, run, or how, like, so our elementary school was basically, like, had a fence all around it, and it was right next to woods. Like, it was literally just our elementary school and then woods. But between, obviously, the woods and the elementary school, they had a fence because they don't want kids running in there. There was also, like, foxes and bears and, like, most random, like, wild animals. Like, I remember seeing a fox. But, like, I would just, like, think of how can I jump over that and, like, which direction would I run into the woods?
Mm-hmm.
And, like, would I be able to run to my house? Because my house is relatively close to my elementary school and, like, technically all my schools.
It is.
So, like, even in like, middle school, like, I would, like, mark the exits, see where I could actually run to, and see how I can run to my house. Like, would I have to jump the fence to go onto the golf course? Because our middle school was right next to a golf course, separated by a fence. So how would I jump that fence? Would I run into the golf course and basically scream for the people on the golf course for help or something like that? Like, I would literally have those dreams. And then I would just, like, I would have to stop myself, like, from dreaming that, because I was, like, because also in my head, I was, like, if I dream it, it's gonna come true.
Yeah.
If I dream it, it's gonna come true. So I had to, like, stop myself so much from, like, dreaming that, because I was, like, if I keep dreaming about this, it's gonna come true. And my mom is a very superstitious person. Like, we were literally talking about this today. She was talking about how she had a dream that she was basically by the water, like, in the beach, and then me and my brother were playing on the beach, or just, like, on the beach, and she was in a restaurant that was, like, kind of like a little dugout on the beach, so there was only 2 little windows, and she said that there was, like, a lot of waves and whatever. My mom doesn't know anything about, like, weather or anything like that, so this is not factual, but she was saying that there was a lot of big waves coming in, and then she was like, wait, why is there so many big waves? And then she realized that a tsunami was coming. In reality, when a tsunami comes, basically the entire bay would be out.
Yeah.
So that's why I was like, that's not really accurate. But basically she was like, oh, like, a big tsunami is coming. And she was like, oh, I have 2 options. Like, either I get out and run, or, like, I'm going to have to swim. But I'm going to die either way because I don't know how to swim. But I was like to my mom, like, if a tsunami is coming, you're dying either way. You can't,
like, you're dead.
You can't swim in a tsunami. But
just, like, how long you can hold your breath for.
Exactly, like 2 seconds, because the pressure of the wave is literally gonna knock you.
It's gonna crush your lungs.
Yeah,
you're dead.
You're dead. But she was like, I think that might be a message for something. We, like, you know, we're all gonna die someday. My mom goes to me, I was like, you can't do that. So, like, her superstitions, like, I can't with them. But they also, like, go on to me, because if I dream about something, I feel like it's gonna come true in some way. It never does. But it's just, like, every single time it happens. Like, if somebody dies, or, like, in my dreams or something like that, like, something happens, like, it's never gonna happen. But, like, in my head, it's gonna sometime happen.
Yeah.
Like, I just can't. Anyways, this is us being messed up. But,
anyways, so, we spiraled off from the pandemic.
Oh, yeah, we did.
So the pandemic was just bad.
It was just bad overall. Like, it's just the effects of transitioning out of the pandemic that was, like, the worst part of it all, because, like, obviously, when something's happening, you don't know it's happening. Like, sorry, that's, like, sounding really off. Hold on. Let me, like, calculate my words. Basically, when, like, there's a duration of something, like the pandemic, like, oh, it's, like, happy fun times. Oh, it's like you're on drugs. So basically, so, like, when you, like, take a drug or something like that, it's all happy fun times, because you're forgetting whatever bad stuff is, like, happening to you at the moment. So it's happy fun times and whatever, you get on that high. And then you get off that high because the drugs are wearing off, but then you're like, wait, this is really sad. I need to get on these drugs again. But with the pandemic, it's just one big high. And then after the pandemic, you're transitioning. You're, what's it called?
I don't like this analogy. You're just, like, just comparing it to drugs.
No, that's the only thing I can think of right now, like, drugs. Like,
I get what you're saying. When you're in it, you don't know how happy you are to be in it, and then when you're out of it, you're like, oh, I want to be that happy again. It's just chasing a high. But you just described it so poorly.
I know. Like, I was trying to, like, calculate my words on how I wanted to describe it, but anyways, like, in the pandemic, we didn't know how badly it would affect us later on transitioning out of the pandemic. Or, like, it just, like, wasn't well. And I talked about this, like, in my last episode, how, like, I did get diagnosed, like, in the middle of the pandemic, like, coming out of it, actually, really, because I think I was diagnosed back in 2021, and, but that's when, like, my anxiety was, like, really bad, and then it just affected me all throughout sophomore year, and, like, I would feel that guilt where I would skip school, but I would, like, have panic attacks because of whatever happening at school, and, like, I didn't want to go to school, but then I would also, like, sob because I was like, wait, like, I don't want to miss school because, like, I know I've been doing bad, but, like, I just can't bring myself to go to school.
Yeah, and it's, like, I feel like sophomore year, like, okay, I'm a senior, right?
Yeah.
I've been through one full year of high school.
Literally, yeah.
Like, because freshman year,
it was all online.
And I was through programs. Like, I literally wasn't in school at all. Like,
that's true.
I was not in school at all because I was just going through program. Didn't do any school. Sophomore year, again, I was going through program, didn't do any school. Junior year was the only year I was actually in school.
Yeah.
And I will only say I was in school, like, 80% of the time. And thank God for my parents, who are, like, the best. I love my parents, but they always say, 80% is better than 0.
Yeah.
And that's true, but then you're missing school for a reason.
Yeah.
Like, oh God, I just have so many issues. I don't know where to begin.
Yeah.
Like, depression, I have depressive episodes, which are really, really bad. For when, like, I'll literally go dark for weeks.
That's true.
Like, no one can contact me.
Yeah.
I just, like, I remember we were playing, like, a game once, and it was like, whose disappearance is most likely to be questioned the least?
Oh, yeah.
And just everyone simultaneously knew it was mine.
We all
because it just happens all the time.
Yeah.
Like, I'll just disappear, and then, so I have, God, I wish I could text someone in our school that in my AP Psych class made a list of everything that I have wrong with me. Do you know who it is?
Yeah, I
you know who it is. But he has that list. So major depressive disorder, GAD.
Yeah.
Generalized anxiety disorder, OCD, which is really bad.
Yeah.
I have 3 sleep disorders. So I'm an insomniac. I have a REM sleep disorder, meaning that I'm in REM sleep too often and I never go into deep sleep. So my dreams are
really, like,
wild and crazy. And then I also have a lucid nightmare disorder.
Which is the one that you need the hypnosis for?
Oh.
Okay.
But, like, then I also have the lucid nightmare disorder. So I have these crazy dreams and they're lucid nightmares.
Yeah.
So I'm awake. And, like, you think of lucid dreaming, being able to control your dreams. It's, like, the opposite. Like, I'm fully in my dream. I'm me. I have my thoughts. I'm in my body. I know where, like, what I'm doing. I'm conscious. But I have no control over what happens. And any decision that I make is literally the worst. Like, and I'm constantly sitting there. And I have this new thing in my dreams, which makes you get a kick out of this one. Where I'll tell people in my dreams, like, I know I'm dreaming.
Yeah.
And they literally gaslight me. Like, they'll literally sit there, like, if this is a dream, like, you'll literally sit there and be like, are you feeling okay? Like, I'll be like, I'm dreaming. Like, I know I'm dreaming. Like, you're not real. And I'll tell that to them because I'm fully aware that I'm dreaming. And then the people in my dream will sit there and be like, Kallie, you actually sound insane. Like, are you okay? Like, do we need to get you medical help?
That's crazy.
And then I wake up and I ask my mom and I'm like, am I dreaming? And she's like, no. And it's like, well, you just told me that 30 seconds ago when I actually was sleeping. So how do I know?
Did they, like, pinch you or something like that?
No, because I can feel it. I'm in my dream. Like, I'm awake in my dream. Anything that happens, I can feel.
Yeah.
And, like, I wake up and my dreams are terrible sometimes. Like, people will, it's just terrible. And so I'll wake up and if someone, like, I love died in my dream, right? And it's, like, a realistic death, I'll, like, wake up and I'm so confused when they're actually alive. And it's, like, a crazy wake up experience.
Yeah.
And so I would say I get 3 to 4 hours of sleep a night on average. And I would say I wake up more tired than I go to sleep.
Do you, like, take, like, sleeping stuff or they just, like, not work?
I'm on So I've been through over 30 medications. Like
for just that one thing, or just like
for everything. Okay. For everything. For anxiety, depression. I got it. Thanks, baby. For anxiety, depression, everything. I've been through over 30 medications. Because it's like psychiatry is the field I actually want to go into.
Yeah.
Because it's so interesting. But medications are something that are so weird because it's literally a concoction that needs to be right for you.
Yeah.
And I have such an amazing psychiatrist. I really like him. I've just been on and off medication so much, which is also like a big thing with like my life. Which,
yeah.
When you are changing medications, it literally does affect your personality, and it affects your ability to do things. And I can't exercise. I haven't been able to like actually do like hard physical activity in, I want to say, 8 or 9 months. Because the medications I'm on, the concoction, like it's literally a cocktail.
Yeah.
Like the cocktail I'm on of medications, I can't do that.
Like, is it like physically or like mentally you can't do that?
No, physically.
Oh, okay.
Like physically, like I'm on medications that, like together, especially, like I can't do physical activity. Like I will pass out, I'll faint, and my heart will tell. Like it's like bad. Like
yeah.
And it's like obviously I can like walk and run a mile, but it's like I can't like tennis. I couldn't do tennis this year because like tennis is my sport. I love playing. I couldn't do it this year because I literally can't. They wouldn't clear me from the nurse's office.
Yeah.
And it was annoying.
Could you do it if it was like a light game? Like
I could do it if they made like modifications. Okay. But you can't really be on a varsity tennis team and not be able to play a full game.
Well, I'm just like talking about like, could you do it like recreationally, like with modifications?
Like, okay. I don't know. It's just like things like that it's like I can't do that because of my medications. But then I've been on so many, and like this new medication that I started, I can't eat carbs past 10 p.m.
Oh, right. Yeah.
What weird rule is that? No carbs. You're telling me if I eat carbs at 10:01, I'm gonna die?
Sorry, Cal.
Like that's ridiculous. Like no past 10 p.m. So sorry if I like want a sweet treat at 10 p.m.
I'll write your obituary.
Thanks. But it's like it's so weird the things that these medications actually do to your body. Yeah. And I've been on so many that like they all start to literally wear together.
Can you play pickleball?
I love pickleball.
So you could play pickleball because that's like basically tennis, but like with modifications because you're in like
that's just tiny tennis. Yeah, that's just tiny tennis.
It's tiny tennis.
I love tiny tennis. Like I can play ping pong.
I mean, like literally geriatrics do it.
That's so true.
I love like I don't like calling old people or elderly people like elderly old people. I love calling them just geriatrics.
I feel like that's a little more morbid.
Yeah, but like if you're going, like if you're thinking medically wise, you would describe an old person as like a geriatric.
I'd say that they were aged.
I just love geriatrics because if you're going into like medicine for like old people, like which I would never do, sorry old people. But
me neither. Sorry.
You would call it geriatrics. Like you're going into geriatric medicine. So that's what I think.
Yeah. I mean, I just call them ancient, ancestral. There's so many names for old people. Are so cute sometimes.
Sometimes, but some of those can be like heathens. Like
I know,
knocking on like the devil's doorstep a little bit. Sorry.
Yeah, but like medication's so weird, and it's so And every time you change medication, you have to give it like 2 to 3 weeks of like your personality being entirely different. Yeah. If you put that into context, I've had 60 weeks of just like interim time. I don't even know if that's the right word, but like time that's just like in between. Yeah. And it's like, what do I do right now? Like I don't even know.
I mean, like I talked about this in my last podcast. I'm just gonna bring it back to my last podcast for you guys to watch it. Just saying. But basically, I was saying because I am not on any type of medication, even though I do have 2 mental disorders.
Get some.
But like the thing is that I did not want to have to like rely on it, and obviously like you can't go out with medication. Like there's certain types of like how bad like something gets for you to get go on medication. But I do think that people should try with like a therapist and like see if that therapist works out for them, and have the therapist like recommend you to a psychiatrist, because then they'll feel like, oh, maybe you do need to be on medication. Because I did have to have that conversation with my therapist, because it was when my anxiety was leading into me being like having depression. And like, again, like I said this in my last podcast episode, that when you have a mental disorder, it's so easy to slip into another one. So when in sophomore year I was becoming depressed, like I would literally not leave my bed for like an entire week. And the only way I would leave my bed is just to go to school. And I would just go to school just to go to school, and then I would come back and I would sleep the entire time. In between that, I would like eat and then watch Netflix and then go back to sleep. Like I would not do any type of work whatsoever. And then it was just like a really bad cycle of everything, and I would not even shower. Like it got so bad, and my room was like absolutely disgusting. Like it was like plates of food everywhere. Like this sounds like so disgusting, but this is so normal with somebody who has depression.
Yeah, no, a lot of people don't realize like how normal that these things are, and they're like I used to get so shit because my thing was I couldn't brush my teeth, and I'm a freak about teeth hygiene.
God, I am such a freak.
I love flossing. I'm sorry, I floss all the time. You can find me with a flosser 30 times a day. I go through the fucking big bags of flossers so often. I'm like at CVS every other day getting a huge.
I have a thing about plaque on my teeth. I hate plaque on my teeth. I actually like want to. I just can't have plaque on my teeth. I take like 4 minutes. Well, this only happens at night because usually like I'm rushing in the morning, but I take like 4 minutes to brush my teeth at night. Like usually like you only need like 2 minutes to brush your teeth. No, I have to take that extra 2 minutes to like really make sure that there's nothing on my teeth. And it also like comes from like an insecurity that my teeth are like more like yellowish tan, and everybody's like teeth are like more white or whatever, but people just use like whitening strips. I just like don't have the money for that right now. But just for that, beauty luxury. But like I literally have to like brush my teeth for such a long time. It's like it's my time. It's like my thinking time too. Like I just like brush my teeth and think about life.
Yeah, but like people don't understand like just what comes with like not being able to function normally.
Yeah.
Like, and what you were saying, like one mental health disorder leads into another.
It's so
like,
easy.
It like I would, if I wasn't depressed, I would never have been anorexic.
Yeah.
Like I had severe anorexia. I had ARFID, or have ARFID. I still do.
Yeah.
Which is a different eating disorder. Like there's just certain things that like you would never even think about.
Yeah.
And it's just like, yeah, that's kind of how it is.
It's so easy when you have a mental disorder. It's so easy to slip into something else, because like I have like anxiety, and sometimes it's like it can be really bad sometimes, but I usually am able to manage it. That's why I don't have my therapist anymore. Like because first of all, I don't want my parents paying for somebody who's just gonna talk to me like once a week or whatever, like about how I'm feeling, whatever, even if I'm feeling okay. Like there was a big span of period. There was just a period of time where it was probably like 3 months I was still seeing my therapist, but the thing is like when we were talking, it wasn't really much of anything, and I just like didn't feel like I needed her anymore, and I felt like I was fine.
My therapist is my bestie.
Yeah, like
I love my girl.
Like I just like felt that I didn't need her anymore, but like I'm still able to manage it. But there was like this one time where I had like an allergic reaction to something, and like it was like something I used to eat before, like, but my tongue got like really scratchy and stuff like that. And then even so, basically, when you have like an allergic reaction to something, and if you feel like your throat is closing, it usually happens within the first 30 minutes of you eating it. But I felt like my throat was closing like an hour and a half after I ate this something that I ate. But like I didn't know that. So basically it was just like my anxiety basically me like letting me think that my throat was closing in order, so like I had to go to the hospital after that. But after that I couldn't eat anything. Like I just felt like whatever I ate, I would have a allergic reaction that would lead to me like having my throat closed and stuff like that, like everything going numb. So like stuff that I was used to eating, I would like eat it, and then I will wait 30, like I'll have one bite, I would wait 30 minutes, and if it didn't like do anything, I would continue eating it, but then I wouldn't want to eat it because it then got cold and it didn't feel like heating it up. So it was like, ugh, whatever. So then maybe that's the reason why I lost so much pounds, but it also like didn't make sense a little bit But yeah, no, like my anxiety literally like led to me like not eating as well as I could have.
Yeah, because they all like manifest together. Yeah. Like when I'm in a depressive disorder, right? I then eating becomes hard. And then it gets to a point where a lot of times when you feel like you can't control anything, you find one specific thing that you can control.
Yeah.
And for me, that one specific thing almost always becomes food. And it's like I can't control how I'm feeling. I can't control what's going on in my brain. I can't control anything else, but I can control what I put in my body, and I can control what I eat, and I can control this. And like then it becomes an OCD thing, and I'm using food as a control mechanism. So now I'm not eating. Now I'm constantly weighing myself. I'm watching, the numbers go up and down, fluctuate, and it's like just a pattern, and it's literally routine. And it's like, so I started out as being depressed. Now I'm anorexic. That correlates with OCD, and it all just like is one big like giant that works against you. And breaking that down is probably the hardest thing that you have to do, because you have to fix one, but fixing one doesn't fix the others. Yeah. And it's like you literally have to pick. It's like would you rather like eat, or would you rather like, but then you can't, like it never works, and it's just so difficult to break a cycle. It just is almost insane.
Yeah, that's why like I feel like people like, if you feel like something is like happening like mentally and stuff like that, and you feel like you're breaking down, whether it's like schoolwork, because like I know like a lot of our friends have like literally had trouble like mentally because of like schoolwork, because schoolwork can be a lot, like it's stuff that sometimes people aren't able to handle. Like I know I wasn't able to handle like a lot of schoolwork before. And I feel like I'm literally like one of those people who are like smart enough to be in an honors class, but not smart enough to keep up. Like sometimes it's like really hard to try to find a balance for everything in your life, and that's literally life. Like you have to learn, but with that learning process, like yes, it can come with like mental hardships and everything like that, and sometimes those mental hardships can lead into mental disorders or like amplify them if you mainly technically like you already had it. But yeah, like I would definitely like say to try to reach out. And I did say this on my last podcast, but like it's really important to try to reach out.
Yeah, because when it's literally, you can think of it however you want. You can think of it as an avalanche. Yeah. Like once the ball starts rolling, it eventually will get to the point where you cannot stop it. Yeah. And that goes with almost any mental suffrage, addiction, mental health, literally anything that you can think of. That's what happens. It starts and it continues and it continues and it grows like huge, and you can't stop it anymore. And trying to stop it, you literally have to hit rock bottom for the avalanche to dissolve before you can start rebuilding. Yeah. And hitting rock bottom is not something that anyone ever wants to do. Yeah. Trust. I've gone there. Just trust. But it's like, I don't know. I like you have to get help and bring attention to what you're feeling before it becomes too late for you to stop it. Yeah. And a lot of people don't realize indicators and like just certain things like that. Yeah. And they're like, oh, this is normal, or oh, I don't want to burden anyone with my feelings. And it's like, no, because it's just going to get worse, and then it's going to be more of a burden down the line. Yeah. And I would, or not a burden. It's never a burden. It's just more of an issue, and it becomes a problem. Yeah. And like I feel like when people are feeling like that, if there's like sources at your school, because there's like a lot of Kallie releases of those sources at our school. And like sometimes I use those sources, but not so much because I have social anxiety. I literally can't like go up sometimes. But if you find like even like when you have social anxiety like me, and you literally can't go up to anybody. Like I literally had to have Kallie get the check from the guy when we went out earlier today. Yeah, and that was a big move for me too. And then I was like, I traded, and I was like, can you get me a Splenda when we walk out for my coffee?
Yeah. So, but if you're like comfortable and you have social anxiety like me, but if you're comfortable with like a friend or a teacher or something like that, have them help you get that help.
Mm-hmm.
Because obviously, like, even reaching out to your friends and, like, or teachers that you feel comfortable with is a big step. It's still a step to get, like, help. Like, it's still you trying. And that's really what it is. Like, just trying to get yourself help.
Mm-hmm.
And like, you know, school counselors, psychologists, like, social workers at your school, they can be really helpful. Honestly, like, you know, like, I love one of our, like, social workers. Like, she helps us a lot. And I love my guidance counselor. Like, she's helped me a lot with, like, colleges and stuff like that. And, like, helped me, like, ease into everything. Because I know, like, college, especially with, like, all decisions coming out and, like, you know, trying to pick one and stuff like that, and just, like, basically the whole burden of college itself, because you're literally going off being independent by yourself, and, like, you're doing everything yourself now. Like, you're gonna be 18. Like, obviously, like, if you're in that, like, good situation with, like, your parents and stuff like that, like, they'll be able to help you. They'll whatever. But
not everyone has that.
Exactly, not everybody has that. So it's good to, like, if you have friends, if teachers, social workers, whatever, anybody, like, you could talk to, it is a step to you getting better. And if it's, like, at those early stages, it's good to catch those at those early stages, because of, like, Callie's avalanche.
There you go.
Oh my god. Avalanche analogy. I think I was, like, mixing up those two words.
You were.
I know.
There you go.
It will literally, like, spiral, and it's just gonna get too big. So,
yeah. And some people are not gonna be helpful.
Yeah.
Like, some people at school were terrible. Like, I'm just genuinely gonna say that.
Yeah.
But
I agree.
There's people that are obviously there for a paycheck, and then there's people that are obviously there because they care about what they do. And if you feel like you're going to someone who is just there for a paycheck, and you feel like, you know, this person's not going to help me, you know, they're not doing anything for me, I don't feel a connection with them, that's why there's so many other people at your school too. Like, they're not the only people. Like, I know you're assigned a counselor and you're assigned, like, a specific person. But there's other ones.
Yeah.
Like, there's literally like more. That. If you don't feel like you're connecting with that person, you can go see someone else.
Yeah.
I've had that experience many times where I literally had, like, overheard a conversation of my guidance counselor in middle school saying bad things about me.
Yeah.
Like, saying that I'm too complainy and I'm whiny and I'm making up half of what I'm saying. And it literally sent me into a humongous panic attack.
Yeah.
Where they had to lock the office. I was in the office. They had to lock the office because they were, like, so unsure of what to do and had no idea what was going on because they'd never seen a panic attack that bad.
Yeah.
And they had no idea how to help.
Yeah.
And it was all because I heard her talking bad about me. Like, I'm genuinely serious.
Yeah.
I hate that woman. Sorry. But there's other people there for that specific reason. Or not that reason, but
yeah.
There's other people there to help. So find someone that works for you.
Yeah, like, the social worker that, like, I go to, like, she doesn't really get assigned to anybody. Like, people, like, recommend her because she's amazing. Like, she is, like, the type of person who does it because she loves it. Like, she's not the person who does it for the paycheck.
And I know exactly what Isabella's talking about.
Yeah.
I don't feel that connection with her.
Yeah.
And that's not a bad thing with her. It's just because I personally have other people I built a stronger connection with. She's not my first choice. Yeah. Do I feel comfortable going to her? Yeah, I do. Of course I do. Because she's a comforting person and I know her and she know, like, it's familiar.
Yeah.
But there's other people I would go to first. And that's kind of the resources that you have to build and the web that you have to, like, form. Especially when you're someone who is noticing these mental changes and has to, like, figure them out.
Yeah. So, guys, catch it early. Catch it early. Get the help.
Don't let it avalanche.
Avalanche.
What did you say?
I said avalanche.
Avalanche. Don't let it avalanche.
Don't let it avalanche. So that is it for today's podcast. I know we talked for a long time. How much? 40? Almost like 45 minutes.
We can talk for longer. Just give me the mic.
Honestly, with Callie's rap sheet, she could talk for like 3 days. But
I have so many stories. If anyone wants to hear them, you can reach out to me. I have too many stories.
Yeah. Just Kallie Green. Just look her up.
You'll find me somewhere.
You'll find her somewhere. It's an E after the N, by the way.
Yeah. Green. Green.
But yeah, that's it for today's episode. Just remember there's a TikTok and there's also an Instagram. And I think that is pretty much it. I am gonna try to actually get the podcast out like regularly because I know all
because she's not been doing good.
I have not been doing good.
She needs to get better.
I've been bad at doing this, and this podcast is like it's really fun to make, but you know it's a lot to plan. Yeah, I feel like a lot of people like talking.
Yeah, the easiest thing to talk about. Yourself.
Quote of the day. Quote of the day. Quote of the podcast.
No, you had a good one at the beginning. What was it? Life happens.
Life happens.
Life happens.
Life just happens.
Big circle. Life happens. Love you. Good night.
All right. I'll see you guys at the next podcast.